So thank you everyone for joining on this live discussion on living better after breast cancer. The real objective is to kind of motivate and let people know and educate people on the fact, I think two things. One, that there is life after breast cancer, and even though there are challenges, there are some positives, and we will be talking to our panelists today. Our panelists today are Dr. D.G. Vijay. He's a director and breast cancer specialist at HCG Cancer Center in Ahmedabad. Nandita Muralidhar, who's a cancer survivor from Chennai for 8 years, and Urvi Sabnis Dave, who's getting close to, I think, 4 years in terms of survivorship. Just a quick recap, Patients Engage is an online platform which supports patients and family caregivers with chronic conditions. And our objective is to essentially share experiences, lived experiences of people so that they can live better and healthier lives. So I think we will start in terms of we'll go back to, I'll keep this on so that people have a view, or I'll bring it on at some point. So if you can all introduce yourselves. Let me start with Dr. Vijay. Do you want to do a quick recap?
I'm Dr. D.G. Vijay. I'm the director and the breast cancer specialist at the HCG Cancer Center in Ahmedabad. And I do exclusively only breast cancer surgery for almost last 2 decades. I wish to congratulate Aparna Mittal and the team at Patients Engage for creating this awareness platform, especially in the month of October, which is the International Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And as you saw in the first slide, it's all about share, learn, and inspire. So I think the three of us and many others who are going to join us today, we will share our experiences regarding breast cancer and its treatment. And hopefully people will learn from that, and it will be inspiring for those patients or ladies who are suffering or in future generations. Thank you.
Okay. Nandita?
Yeah, I'm Nandita Muralidhar. My husband was an army officer, so though I've now settled down in Chennai, we've been all over the country. Like Aparna said, it's 8 years since I've since the first diagnosis. I've been through it twice, and I just want to say, don't worry. The journey is tough, but it will pass, and there is nothing to worry. The key to it is finding it out early. I'm now in Chennai. I'm passionate about gardening. I'm passionate about cooking, baking, and I believe what saw me through everything is my funny bone, because we tend to see the funny side of any situation, no matter how serious. So just keep positive. That's what's helped me through. Anything else you want to ask, please go ahead. That's it.
Thanks, Nandita. Urvi?
Yeah, I'm Urvi Sabnis. I live in Ahmedabad. I survived cancer 3.5 years ago. I'm an active member of a support group. And I'm a fun-loving person. You can say I'm full of life. Yeah, that's it.
Good, good. Excellent. So let's get started. Dr. Vijay, I think globally what we are seeing is the survivorship rates are in cancer in general and breast cancer as well are improving, especially over the last couple of decades. What is your assessment in terms of the reasons for this, and how do you equate that with your experience?
I think it's, I entirely agree with you that survivorship in all cancers, especially in breast cancer, is improving. I think this is largely due to the awareness that various media have created And women are now, especially in the urban areas, also in the rural areas, I would say, aware that whenever they have a breast lump, they ought to go and see a doctor. Maybe it could be their gynecologist, a surgeon, or their local physician. There is a lot of mammography which is available, screening. So hospitals and diagnostic centers across the country, previously about 2 decades ago when we started practice, there were very few diagnostic machines available. Mammography, now they are available in much larger. The expertise, the human resources are available. And a lot of improvement in treatment, especially in chemotherapy, hormone therapy, and targeted therapy, by which our results and survivorship have improved. I think platforms such as this have also in the past, we have worked on this to dispel any myths that have been there. So women are now more coming out of the closet and discussing that they have breast cancer, and Urvi is part of our breast cancer support group, and they counsel a lot of patients pre-operatively, and they are not afraid to undergo treatment, which was the scenario about 2 decades ago.
Okay, thank you. So I think one of the, I guess, conceptions or misconceptions that people have is, right? One is that life ends with a diagnosis of cancer, and hopefully with a greater survivorship that is changing. But there is also, there isn't enough awareness of what happens after people have gone through intensive treatment, right? So everybody knows about chemotherapy, the side effects of chemotherapy, now radiation therapy, but beyond that, what happens when somebody's gone through all of these treatments? So I think what we wanted to do is highlight some of those issues, because more and more people are living for many years after cancer diagnosis, and therefore there needs to be awareness of not just the treatment options, but what happens after and how do you manage that. So, keeping that in mind, could you shed some light on the top few medical issues that people, who've had breast cancer treatment need to watch out for?
So some of the issues that women in the early phases are obviously hair loss, skin changes, fatigability. In the long term, there could be issues regarding lymphedema, which is swelling of the arms on the side operated. There could be, mental, physical changes occurring. There could be issues regarding their menopausal status. So if they were premenopausal, they might become postmenopausal. And some cardiac, heart-related issues. And these are the various things, at different stages of their life, they experience some of these, I would say, side effects.
And I guess some of these are dependent on the age of the patient and, at what age they are being diagnosed, right?
Correct. I think it's a good idea to just, the two ladies in the frame who have gone through some of these treatments, I think they can enumerate a couple of the side effects that they have themselves.
Sure. So let's start with you. What are the, some of the issues you faced, and, how do you deal with them?
We've got a group of survivors, and many of them or most of them complain about low energy levels. So I can say that I have dealt with it very nicely. Like I was 10 kgs heavier and I controlled my weight, and now I'm more energetic. And so I feel that I have overcome that, and that is not an issue with me. The second thing which people complain is about memory loss after the chemo. So there I do this Shirshasana or headstand very, very regularly, and that has helped me there. And the other side effects are kind of the loss of sensation where you are operated. These things can be managed, like you try to live with it. There are no major things which are to be taken care of. The other thing is hot flushes. There you have to be very, like, you remain hydrated. live a healthy lifestyle, workouts. These all things help. Yeah, you cannot completely avoid those things,
Right.
but yes, you can minimize the issues.
Right. Nandita, do you want to talk about some of the issues you faced?
Yeah, I faced, of course, besides hair loss, like he said, that was a routine thing. I have met others who have not had it, but one thing is hair loss, low energy. Definitely my energy levels from before have gone down drastically, but then low energy levels and maybe the nerve damage or whatever it is, under the feet, under the soles of the feet, and generally nerve endings and aches and pains, which have lasted for almost 6-7 years, that have slowly decreased. But most important, I think, the fact is that mentally, if you realize that the worst is over and you're looking forward and you stay positive, all these are just minor. You're alive and it's becoming better every day. That is the most important thing. The worst is over. So I guess, and lymphedema, luckily, though I had the nodes removed on the left, I have not had the problem with that, which I'll tell about.
You had great support on lymphedema, right? You had a good
yeah.
So you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I think in my case, the physiotherapist in Cancer Institute, where I had my first operation, was very, very, he put us through our paces every single day. And, though at that time, that is the only time, there's no pain involved in the whole entire process so far. But the only time I did have pain was when I was going through those physiotherapy exercises. He'd make you stretch your arms and keep your arms supple. But in the long run, I realized that is what has sort of saved me from maybe the lymphedema, saved me from the limited mobility of the hands. I have no problem with my hands or the mobility anymore.
Right.
I think that is played a big part in my recovery also. And like I said, the funny bone and positivity, that's all.
Right.
And like Urvi said also, one very, very important thing is the support groups that we have. We tend to exchange energy, I think, more than thoughts. You sort of gain energy from support groups. It's a good thing.
Great. Yeah. Dr. Vijay, this memory loss that Urvi talks about, is that the same as what is called chemobrain, or is that different? Or
yeah, chemo, the brain appears to process, and especially memory loss and forgetfulness, short-term memory loss. These are some of the side effects that we may see. But I wanted to make a point with one of the greatest fears that women have after completing treatment for breast cancer is the fear of recurrence of the disease coming back and of probably dying from it. So this is probably something that, is at the back of their mind, haunting them all the time. But both our panelists today are very strong. And I think Indians by nature, because we are more spiritual in nature, religious in nature, and we have very strong family support. So husband, children, and in-laws and everybody, they all rally around at this time of crisis, and they are really pampered and they help tide over the crisis in a very beautiful way. Lymphedema, of course, is a sequelae. I would not call it a complication of breast cancer treatment. The mid-arm circumference, if you can see here, that, or maybe even the forearm, or even of the wrist, there is some fluid collection there. And as pointed out, we can have very vigorous lymphedema exercises. So a good physiotherapist early in the treatment of breast cancer, your chances of lymphedema will go down. And also your shoulder range of motion. So you will be entirely able to raise your hand above and use it, because women have to do a lot of activity. They may be working and cooking and doing a lot of household activity. So it's very important that we avoid these two sequelae, lymphedema, and have a complete range of motion of the ipsilateral shoulder on which the surgery was done.
Okay. Great. So I think you brought about a couple of points, and we will touch upon them later as well. But I think so let's go into. I think Urvi, you alluded to weight gain, and you were warned about it in some sense, and then you worked hard to get fit and reduce your weight. But also, I think there are some restrictions in terms of the arm where the node is removed, whether how do you get your BP checked and what do you watch out for. So if you want to just highlight a little bit on that.
Yeah, so I was operated on the left side, so the nodes are removed. So I don't I don't allow them to take blood from that hand. BP is also not checked on that hand. Then I don't lift weight beyond a certain kgs. That is all.
Right.
These are the things I have to take care. And during the workouts also, I try that the weight is not, you can say, it's not on that particular hand.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Nandita, you want to add to that?
The same thing for me too. I was told no sleeping on the left, no nothing on the left. So I did have the operation, another operation 2 years later on the other side. So that side, at that time, they had to put the IV on the neck because left side was out of bounds. But believe me, these are all minor. Once you get over it, then you shouldn't sort of worry about it. It's over and done with.
Right. So I think the one difficult question always that comes up, depending on the type of cancer, especially if it requires mastectomy, the question often that people are dealing with is whether to go in for reconstruction or not, and that's always a difficult decision. So doctor, what is your view in terms of what are the factors that people should consider when they decide whether they go in for reconstruction or not?
I think all women, irrespective of the stage, are eligible for a breast reconstruction. So anyone who undergoes a mastectomy would, in the early post-operative, if possible, immediately would require a breast reconstruction. Having said that, in India, because we diagnose a lot of patients in stage 2, stage 3, advanced stages, and the reconstruction is going to add to their cost of treatment. Our own philosophy has been to, of course, recommend breast reconstruction for a large number of patients, but I think it is not very high on the priority. The priority is to be free of disease, so surgery followed by chemo, followed by radiation. And early cases, however, we are more aggressive in recommending breast reconstruction because we are reasonably sure that they are going to live longer, and we would want to offer a very good quality of life to the years that they are going to live beyond breast cancer.
Right. And if they decide to do reconstruction, is there can it be done anytime after surgery, or is there like a moratorium that, it has to be done within a year, or?
Probably the best time to offer breast reconstruction is at the same time. So when they undergo mastectomy, we plan the incision in such a way, we have a plastic surgeon ready. We have discussed the options for breast reconstruction with some of these patients. So whether to harvest the belly fat and then use it for breast reconstruction, whether we are going to do silicone implant for breast reconstruction. So all this has been discussed prior to surgery, and then we can do the planning in a way that the surgery is immediately followed by reconstruction. So when the woman comes out of the operation theater, there is a breast mound which is intact.
Right.
Of course, many women do not accept this, and we have a lot of experience in secondary breast reconstruction, where after a period of 3 to 5 years, once the fear of recurrence is gone, then they come back and then we do reconstruction for them as a secondary procedure also.
Okay. Urvi, you decided to go for mastectomy. Can you, breast reconstruction. So can you kind of shed light on your thought process at that time, and also a little bit on, are there any issues related to that?
There were two good reasons to go ahead with the reconstruction. The one and the primary one was like I was slightly on the heavier side so far as breasts were concerned. So if I after the mastectomy, there was a chance of I getting into permanent physiotherapy because of the weight imbalance. So the side where I had my breast, like the removed one is okay, the other side I would have gone into aching of the hand on a permanent basis. So that was the first and foremost reason. The other reason was that my surgeon told me that I have seen you three to 4 times, both of you, I and my husband, and you seem to be a very active couple. You are right now scared of this devil, so you just want to go ahead with the mastectomy. But after 6 months, believe me, you are going to feel that I should have undergone a reconstruction. And that made me actually think over. And I took a night to think over it. And next day I was ready with the decision.
And after the decision, have you?
Yeah, the issues?
Yeah.
It was a tram flap surgery where the fat is taken from the lower abdomen and it is pushed towards the breast, and that is how it is the reconstruction is done. So you have two sites, surgical strikes on two sites basically.
Only you are at liberty to say anything about the surgery, so don't worry. Even if the surgeon is present here, it doesn't matter. Anything good or bad can go on record, and we can record it.
It was a good experience, but yeah, you have to deal with two sides, that is for sure. And I had like my skin was very thin. That is what my plastic surgeon had told me. So I had to deal with the stitches, and resuturing had to be done after some 15 days or so. That is one thing I faced, and that was during those days. Yeah, we felt that it was very difficult because it used to bleed, and the sight itself was very horrifying. Like you are sitting, and all of a sudden you see that your whole shirt is full of blood.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I had seen Urvi working as an executive assistant to one of the country's top executives, and she had a particular, I would say, corporate image, and therefore it was necessary, in what case she wanted to go back to work, that in some of these, so it's important that everyone has a body image, and as part of that, if a woman is conscious and demands breast reconstruction, then we must have the skills to be able to offer that. So that is the point that we are at, So if at least we can push it, but then if they want it, then we must have the skills and the human resources to be able to offer to that.
And I think it's also important, based on my conversation with some of the other survivors, it's also important for the hospitals or the doctors to offer it, because sometimes it's a bit awkward for patients to ask for it, although that's changing, but it's not sometimes easy for them to ask for it, especially in, with their families around them. And, most of them saying, just get it over with type of mindset. But, so it is important to offer. And then, of course, the decision stays with the patient, right? So coming to you, Nandita, you decided not to go ahead with a reconstruction, and tell us.
Yeah, in my case, I told you also earlier, my mother has had cancer, my father's had cancer. So generally the idea, the thought, that it can recur was there. It's too high on the, it was too much of a scare. So I didn't want to go in for that option. And as luck would have it, the second time it occurred, it would have only, sort of been it would have been a bigger headache, and I would have sort of been upset about the reconstruction of the first, because then the fear would have just doubled.
Right.
May not have been needed to, I may not have really needed to be scared, but the decision was there that no, just forget it. It's over and done with. And besides which, my age also, I was nearing 50. My kids were settled. My daughter was, married. My son was also settled. So the choice, I took a choice. I took the decision then that I'd rather not. And I'm not disappointed. I'm not upset about it.
So you use a prosthetic, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And it's comfortable? You have any issues with that?
No, I don't have any issues with it. Like I told you, in case now somebody's watching and because very often you don't know really where to go, what to do, whom to find it, get it from. So there are these special bras available where there are pockets for the prosthetic. So you get that special bra, you get the prosthetic. Initially, of course, I had to match it. So then you get the prosthetic to match the one that is left. And eventually, of course, I had to get an extra prosthetic to fill up the other side. Initially, it was lopsided. So to prevent the lopsided look, I had to get a prosthetic. And then thereafter, and I've had no problem. Initially, you're a little conscious of it and all. But now, over the years, I'm okay. I'm comfortable with myself.
Good. So I'll just kind of let people know who are watching us. If you're on Facebook, you can add your question in the comments, or if you want, you can, if you're watching it on Zoom, you can chat and add it there. We've already got one question, which is asking, Dr. Vijay, what is the follow-up protocol? How often do people who've had breast cancer need to, periodic checkups after the recovery, and what frequency, etc.?
There can't be a one-size-fits-all treatment or follow-up plan for patients with breast cancer. Obviously, patients who are in an early stage, we are going to call them at much longer intervals. So maybe once in 6 months, once in 3 months. Those who are having a lot of nodal disease, we are more interested in calling them maybe every 3 months, but at least for the first 3 years.
Right.
Reports are not, it could be, most important test is, of course, a mammography. So unless the patient is symptomatic, she has cough or she has lost weight. If she has cough, then we would probably do a chest X-ray or a CT scan. If she has loss of appetite or some abdominal symptoms, we would do an ultrasound of the abdomen or a CT scan. If she has bone pains, we would probably go ahead and do a bone scan. So it's more symptom-driven investigation rather than doing the whole gamut of investigations, or even the more recent PET CT scan in every patient. So it has to be a proper history taking and a proper physical examination is to be done first, and then it is to be followed by appropriate investigation. So the interval also may vary from patient to patient. Aparna, with your permission, I might want to make a small point. Today in my practice, you see in India, the problem is that a lot of patients are young, below the age of 50, who are developing breast cancer. And therefore, it's imperative that because they are young and with breast cancer, we offer breast reconstruction. Unlike in the West, where many of them are elderly women.
Right.
And in my own practice, nearly 50% of patients come in early stages, and we do not offer mastectomy to all patients. We do breast conservation surgery, where we remove the lump and the lymph nodes if they are involved. And therefore, the chances of, the whole discussion about mastectomy may not be relevant in about 50% of my patients who undergo breast conservation surgery. Today, we have the skills to do sentinel lymph node biopsy for the last few years. So we do not do a complete axillary dissection in many patients, and therefore we spare the lymphatics, and many patients do not develop lymphedema as well. we'll take your next question.
Okay, great. So I think in terms of that, there was also a question about the two types of cancers, whether it's ductal or lobular, and whether one is more risky than the other. That was another question that we got before we move on to the other segment.
It's very little. The incidence of invasive ductal carcinoma is about 80 to 90% of cases. Invasive lobular could be anywhere between 10 to 20%. So both are equal as far as their virulence is concerned. So, it doesn't matter. It matters stage for stage, whether what is the size of the tumor, whether the lymph nodes are involved or not, whether it has spread to any other part of the body. So it doesn't matter whether, of course, with lobular carcinoma, it could be that there could be multiple sites within the same breast that could be involved. And there is a small chance that there could be a contralateral breast cancer. So with lobular cancer, we are looking at the opposite breast much harder than we would probably in a ductal carcinoma.
Okay. So I think, and I think we talked about this initially, and especially because when you come back to regular testing, etc., most patients have a fair amount of what is now termed scanxiety, right? So there's a lot of fear, there's insomnia, there's the stress of an upcoming test. So Nandita, how do you deal with that, or how did you deal with that? Because I think that's quite real, and that's when everybody's forgotten that you're still going through this trauma.
No, definitely any test, you go in for a test or a scan when there is some indication that you require a test or a scan. So yes, that time there is that fear at the back of your mind that, what if, but at the same time, that's again where another thing comes in, where I say, okay, take it one step at a time. It's my philosophy as far as this thing goes. You take one day at a time, one step at a time. If there is something, it needs to be checked. If it is checked, wait till the result comes. And once the result comes, okay, what's the next step? So you take one step at a time. Don't overthink and go too far ahead, because the minute something is wrong, the first thought that does come in is, okay, is something wrong? But that's when you have to sort of actually shake yourself and say, okay, just go slow, one step at a time. See, okay, let's see, it's been found. Next is do the test. Okay, if the test has to be done, wait till the result comes. Yes, scanxiety, as you called it, is something that I understand that very well. It does bring up that.
Urvi, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I have not yet cleared the 5-year window, so yeah, it is there when the tests are nearing. But the short-term thing which I use is like I have many hobbies, so I divert my mind towards that during that time. And then even if after that, even if I cannot do it, like if it doesn't go away, then I think that I have already won this battle once, and I have my weapons in place. I know which weapon to use when.
Right.
So I'm very clear. If it comes, how am I to deal with it?
Yeah.
So, and then my mind is clear.
Good. Excellent. One question that's come in was, did either of you go through any counseling, either when you were making any decisions, whether it was related to whether or not to go in for chemo, or whether, on the options after mastectomy?
No, not really.
No. Okay.
I mean, not me.
Either me.
Right.
Now we have a full-time psychologist who works with us, and she is available in the OPD every day and counsels patients preoperatively for chemo, for radiation. We have some medical social workers who counsel patients, because cost most of the time is borne by the patient themselves. So there are some people who discuss at how to overcome any financial constraints that they may have. So we have a lady who counsels them psychologically, financially, and we also have now a full-time genetic counselor. She's done her PhD in genetics. So She is also available on hand. So because more and more patients, young patients are there, and many of them also seem to have a family history. So we refer these patients to the genetic counselor, who then talks to them whether they need the genetic test or not. So if you are working in a comprehensive cancer center, I think you are having access to a lot of other specialists who will counsel patients for diet. We have a special dietitian, so she counsels patients about diet. People are really concerned what not to eat after breast cancer. So many of these questions can be answered in the OPD itself.
Right. Okay. One question for you, Dr. Vijay, based on what you said. Why are more people below 50 getting diagnosed with breast cancer in India as opposed to the West?
I think we really don't know the answer to that question. Why women of younger? Probably it's that we live a decade. Our longevity is less, almost a decade less than that in Western countries. And whatever diseases we see in Western countries, whether it is cardiac disease or cancer, seems to be striking a decade earlier in the India than in many other countries. So that could be one of the reasons. Our longevity is lower, and some other hormonal changes by which we seem to have a predisposition to develop some of these diseases at a much earlier age.
One other question is, you talked of a lot of the side effects initially. Are they all related to chemotherapy, or some of them are related to other treatment options as well? So some of them are, say, radiation therapy or hormonal therapy or surgery. Because I think some people assume that chemotherapy is the worst and that causes all the side effects. So we've had a question which kind of indicates that. So I'm just asking.
No, probably the tingling and the numbness that Nandita was talking about could be attributed to one of the chemotherapeutic drugs that could have been used in her case. But nothing is without side effects. So you could have a tamoxifen, which is a very commonly used drug for hormone therapy. It could have hot flushes, weight gain, water retention, endometrial thickening. So a lot of things, And the other common drug used in postmenopausal women, letrozole, would have bone pains, osteoporosis, aggravation of osteoporosis. So many of these things could happen. So different drugs in chemotherapy, in hormone therapy, and in targeted therapy, trastuzumab could have its own cardiac-related side effects. Radiation could have local side effects because it's directed against the chest wall. The skin could become dark and pigmented. And so these are the side effects. Every treatment, but most of the effects are reversible, and over a period of time they become less in intensity.
Okay. So I think a couple of things, right? Obviously everybody's dealing with various side effects, and some side effects affect you more than others. So Nandita, what are the things that you're very careful about or that you cannot do now that you used to do before? Are there any such?
Yeah, basically because of the nodes being removed on the left, definitely now no, like Urvi said, no blood test, no BP measurement, no tight garments or nothing, and no sleeping on the left, no. Consciously, if I think, then I don't lift up very heavy things with my left. But then over the years, maybe that weightlifting thing I have not adhered to so much. But yes, and at the drop of a hat, you'll suddenly find me raising my hand, without thinking. It's become a what do you call, something
reflex.
that I do even without thinking. Yeah, reflex sort of a thing. Yes, I am very conscious of the left, that I have there certain things that I cannot do. But apart from that, now it's sort of something that no longer. And out here, another very important point is, here in Chennai, we've all decided that we are no longer survivors, we are conquerors.
Right.
So we refer to ourselves as conquerors. And so nothing apart from basically things that I have. Of course, I can't stand for too long. I can't walk for too long. I used to go for very long walks before. I can't go for very long walks. I can't stand in one place or even be on my feet for too long. But that also, I suppose, will become okay over the years. I suppose it'll take time.
Right. Urvi, do you want to share your experience?
I don't bother about these blood tests and BP and everything, but sometimes I miss a few types of workouts which I cannot do, like handstand I cannot do now. So there are moments where I feel that, yeah, I'm missing something, but then I start self-counseling that life is beautiful and much more beyond these things. And yeah, those are momentary.
Right. And what were the activities you went back to or started new?
Nothing new as such. I continued what I used to do, like I sing, and I'm and very like active. I have a very active life so far as yoga is concerned. I swim on a regular basis. So these are the things which I used to do earlier and which I have continued doing after post-cancer too. Yeah.
Excellent. Nandita?
Not really much different, but then yes, I have always enjoyed gardening. I've gone back to my gardening. I love handicrafts. I love doing things with my hands. I love baking. I love cooking. So I've not, but there is one thing, even Urvi will tell you, that you learn to appreciate life a lot more because you've had this one bit of a jolt. So you learn to appreciate life a lot more. You learn to sort of forgive and forget a lot faster. And you learn not to dwell on anything, that even if there's something wrong, you say, okay, it's over and done it, go. I mean, anything, not just health. And now minor things don't really affect you, okay, a headache, so what, it's just a headache. That sort of a thing. You learn to appreciate life a lot better. So I think there are a lot more positives.
Yeah, the positive side effects.
Dr. Vijay, you want to say something there?
I want to say something laudable about women is that most of them are in their 40s and 50s. Many of them have young children. At least I know Urvi had a young daughter at that time, and then she went abroad to do her graduation. So the women have to, many of them are career women, so they are busy working. So a lot of them have young children who are in school, in college, not yet married, or marriageable age, and the demands of a family life. So it really gives them very little time, and then they are able to cope up with the stress of the disease, because they have which is what is the point that these two panelists are coming up with, is that if you are engaged in a very active and a fruitful day, then you have actually very little time to think about the negative aspects of the disease and worry about them. So keep the mind positive and go out and do whatever you are supposed to do, and spare very little time to think about the negativities of the disease.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Nandita.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, and one more thing I have to say is, the support that you have at home makes a world of difference. My sister-in-law looked after me like a baby during the first one. I mean, my whole family, I've had I think that is the biggest positive more than anything else. Is everybody tells you okay, and they don't, or nobody sort of goes into that gloom. The minute everybody around you gets into a gloomy mood, it affects you. If people treat you, and I mean that funny bone stays intact, then you can sort of defeat anything. You can go ahead. You learn to look at the positive side of everything that happens.
Right.
Big difference in how you look at things. Like I would like to add to what doctor said. Like earlier, earlier I used to think that I was very anxious that how will I see of my daughter when she will go abroad. But post cancer, I never fretted about these things. Like I always thought that I'm here to bless her. I'm here to see where she's going, how she's growing. So things change completely.
Right. Good. Excellent. So that's really positive. I think in terms of, and it kind of leads into the next question. So I think, Doctor, you talked of there's always a fear of relapse or recurrence. Is there any stat in terms of, what percentage of patients have relapse or recurrence or spreads? So is there anything that you'd like to share on that?
Obviously, early stage breast cancer, stage 1, stage 2, almost 80 to 90% of them can be cured. Patients who come in with small tumors, lymph node negative, they are the ones who stand the highest chances of cure. Having said that, other tests like the estrogen progesterone receptor, HER2 receptor, biological parameters are also very important in the outcome of patients. Unfortunately, in India, we have a lot of patients coming in stage 3 and stage 4. So the outcomes in those patients are relatively not so good as those in stages 1 and 2.
Right, right. Okay. And what is your advice, Nandita, to patients in your support group, for instance, or, other newly diagnosed who come to you or to talk about it and are worried about recurrence, relapse, etc., etc.?
See, the very first thing, like I told you, Aparna, is that when they see you, that is the biggest positive they get, that yes. Secondly, you have to tell them, yes, it's going to be a rough ride, but it will pass. Don't worry. It will pass, and one fine day you will be talking to somebody else of it in the past tense. So just bear with it and go through this. Yes, it's a rough ride. It's a roller coaster ride you're going through. But don't worry, it's not never ending. You'll go through it. The fact that you're having any side effect is because the medicine is working. The medicine is doing what it should. So just relax. Yes, have faith that it's going to get over someday, and just bear with it. Because it is rough. The treatment time is rough. The side effects, I had a lot of side effects. And at that time also somebody asked me, how do you go in for the next one? It's because you know that, okay, 1 down, 5 to go, 2 down, 4 to go. And once it's over, it's over.
Right.
So I think you have to just remember that it will pass. It will pass. It's not going to stay forever. Yeah.
Right. Urvi, what would you like to add to that?
Again, it's a phase, and like if your life is a book, then these 7-8 months is just a paragraph. You need to remember that. So, and you don't have to pity yourself during these days. You can do plenty of things sitting at home. You can just make a wish list. Which are the things I can do during these? Generally women don't get time to do certain things.
Right.
This is a time where you can take your certain things, not everything, but yeah, there are things which you can take during this time.
Right.
So instead of just surviving, you can live through it.
Dr. Vijay, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, again, I will say something good about women is as a person expert for the last 2 decades, women adapt to these situations. And I think every marriage season I get invited by some of our, let's call them conquerors, we call them winners in Ahmedabad. Their daughters getting married or their children, some family function or the other. And I'm so privileged to be a part of those celebrations which ensue about 3, 5, 7, 10 years later on. At this point of time, I recollect Neela Joshi. I operated her about 10 years ago. She was herself a professor of psychology, and she is the mother of Abhijat Joshi, who wrote Sanju recently, Munna by MBBS, 3 Idiots. Many of the Raju Hirani movies have been co-written by her son, Abhijat Joshi. She is alive at the end of 10 years to see her son become, I would say, a Bollywood star. Her son has become a star writer. Her other son is Soumya Joshi, who is a poet and a dramatist. He wrote a play called Ek So Mein Not Out, which was made into the very successful movie 102 Not Out by starring Amitabh Bachchan and Rishi Kapoor. So for her, it's such a great pleasure being alive at the end of 10, 20, 12 years to see her sons, make some of the most fantastic movies in the last 10 years.
Right, right. So you can achieve your dreams and watch your kids achieve their dreams.
Our children and our family achieve their dreams as well.
Correct, correct. Good, excellent. One question that's come in on the menopause and hot flushes. Just wanting to, if both of you, Nandita and Urvi, if you can talk about that a little bit, and what was, because you all were both different ages, so what was your experience with that, and if you can share that for the audience.
Yeah, I was in the premenopausal stage, and after during the chemo you stop bleeding, but yeah, you've not menopaused, so after a certain time you need to get yourself checked, the estradiol levels. This is the hormone you need to check whether you have menopaused or not. So depending on that, they change the therapy, the hormone therapy.
Right, but you still get hot flushes even though you did not.
Yeah, that may be because of the chemotherapy.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
In my case, I was already in the perimenopausal stage, and I was 48. And with the first chemo, that was 10 days later, I had the period, and that was the end. So thereafter, I haven't had it. And I've not had any hot flushes or other problems after that. But because the first one was ER negative, I didn't have the Letronat or Letrozole or anything. The second time round, it was positive, so I had letrozole for 5 years. That does have some side effects of skin thinning, the skin becoming very sensitive and very thin, and hot flushes still no, but then yes, this aches and pains and bone problems, like doctor was saying, could be because of either the letrozole or the chemo, whatever it is, but there are those pains. Otherwise, no, nothing. Now, since it's 2 years since I stopped that also.
Right.
So I'm okay now.
Good. If there are no more questions from the audience, I think I'll thank the panelists. So I think our conquerors, warriors, thrivers, winners, whatever you call Nandita, who's been thriver for 8 years now, and Urvi for almost 4 years, and wishing you all the best. Dr. Vijay, thank you for your time as well. And if anybody has any, parting words for our audience, that would be, add anything to it.
I would like to say that, yeah, someone saying?
Go ahead, Turvi.
Yeah, I would say that post-cancer you become fearless and you are full of gratitude.
Right.
These are the positive side effects of cancer.
Nandita,
no, very true. You become fearless. You become positive. Your positivity only increases because you realize that life is. There's a lot more to life. By being positive, also you can. And please don't be scared of checking. That's the scan anxiety that you said is also a scare. Very many people are scared to test what they have detected themselves because they're scared it may be cancer. So 90% of the time when you detect something, it may not be cancer, but please do self-checks. Please check yourself. Don't let that fear of finding something not let you check. And when you check something, find something, don't get scared. Get it checked out. 90% of the time, it may just be a cyst. If it is positive, it can be treated. So don't worry. Early detection, you can be cured. By leaving it and not doing something, you may be putting yourself in danger. So don't worry. There's nothing to worry about it. You'll be okay. Just do be aware.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
From a pure scientific and oncologic point of view, I think what Nandita said is very important. Women should do breast self-examination after their periods, and whenever they detect a lump, as a part of the breast self-exam or even otherwise, seek medical attention, investigate appropriately. If they are young, an ultrasound of the breasts. If they are beyond the age of 40, we can get a mammogram done. They can go to they need not always seek the attention of an oncologist, a breast cancer specialist. They can go to the gynecologist who has delivered their babies, or to the local physician, general physician, family physician, and he will be able to help them out in these cases. There is a myth that biopsy, because of biopsy, the disease can spread. That is not true. In nearly 50% in our center, we are able to conserve the breast, so it's not that you are going to have a mastectomy all the time. So we'll be able to save the breast in nearly 50% of cases, so which is a very big number. Chemotherapy has its side effects, but it's a very integral part of the treatment. In many patients, of course, may not need chemotherapy if they come in early. Do not worry about hair loss, alopecia. Alopecia can be a fashion statement sometimes, and you can have wonderful wigs and headscarves, and your loved ones are really not worried, whether you have hair, because the hair is going to come back, and you can see both our panelists, Nandita and Urvi, having luxuriant hair, so it's going to come back. All the side effects are going to go away, and one day this entire thing, the nightmare, if I may call that, will blow away, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. And with appropriate treatment, I'm sure you're going to come out much stronger and live longer, healthier.
Thank you. And if there are people still there out there, remember that you live after breast cancer. It's not the end. And if you have any other questions for this panelist, or even otherwise, you can write into us on our Facebook page or through the inbox messenger. So yes, thank you again, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
One second, Aparna.
Yeah, go ahead.
You will be doing more such things.
Yes. So this is
right?
Yes, this is the first of the series, and yes, we will be doing, or the second of the series technically. So we will be doing more such across conditions, across cancer as well. Yes. Yeah. So watch this space, as they say. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.